So, I need to come clean about something. In 2015, I made a video called Amiibo Workshop Episode 1. Custom Amiibo were very popular in 2014 and 2015. My intention was that I'd buy an Amiibo, make a video about customizing it, then sell it on eBay and use the money to buy another Amiibo, in which I'd start the process over. Solid plan for a 15-year-old. My first video was going to be turning a Sonic Amiibo into Supersonic. I researched what other people did, I learnt that heating the rubbery-ish plastic could let you repose the figure, and I bought paints, but it didn't go according to plan. At that point in time, I had little to no experience with spray painting. And I screwed up big time! First, I used silver as an undercoat. Do not do that, silver is not a primer. And second, my yellow paint wasn't so much a paint as it was a rubberized coat paint hybrid. The result of which caused the plastic of my figure to melt in places, particularly the base. And I guess I didn't heat it enough because the quills were starting to fall back into their previous position. I was able to salvage and clean him up for the most part, but yeah, big failure on my part. I had more Amiibo projects planned too. There was a teaser for Proto Man who I was going to make by 3D printing the model of his Wii U trophy, and then putting it on the base of Mii Gunner. And I was even going to transplant the Inkling Amiibo onto the Mii Gunner too, which, in hindsight, would have been very dumb. In the end, I decided to cancel that series, for a few reasons. For one, that was a pretty embarrassing failure. For another, I didn't have access to a 3D printer at that time, which I was going to need for a few certain things, and some Amiibo were starting to get actually really quite impossible to get your hands on at that time. No joke, after that one Sonic Amiibo I got for the video, I was never able to find one again anytime soon, and any of them online were up way in the triple digits. It wouldn't be until actually a few weeks ago where I found one on Facebook Marketplace, along with a Ridley. More recently, I made 2 videos talking about Amiibo, and in one of them, I announced Amiibo Workshop was coming back, as I wanted to take another crack at it. I still don't like the idea of tearing apart and painting hard-to-find and valuable figures, but if there's any place where you can get spare parts or broken used figures, please drop a comment, I would like to know.
Amiibo Workshop.
So this year we've been having a bit of a Metroid craze. Dread was announced out of nowhere, and around this time, alongside replaying other Metroid games, I bought Samus Returns as it was made by the same dev teams as the upcoming Dread. And yeah, a lot certainly does carry over. A big feature was its Amiibo compatibility. I didn't own any as of playing, but I did get my hands on this sealed Samus Amiibo. I'm still on the fence about opening it. But anyway, alongside the game's release in 2017 was a double pack of Samus and the baby Metroid from the game's ending and sitting on the broken tank from after the Ridley boss in Super Metroid. This Amiibo in-game locates the nearest Metroids on your map, which is a pretty useful tool to have in a game about hunting Metroids, and on the main menu unlocks Fusion Mode, a difficulty mode above Hard Mode that lets you play with the suit from Metroid Fusion, and could possibly be a leftover from Mercury Steam's early demo of a Metroid Fusion remake that was turned down to make a Metroid 2 remake instead. While cool features, I don't think anybody anticipated how impossible to get these were. It sold out really quickly as both double and single packs, and to this day is not only rare but incredibly expensive. And you cannot use these mentioned features without it. Locking some content behind exclusive Amiibo is very controversial, especially if it's one you can't get your hands on. I almost considered buying a custom NFC tag online, which can be loaded with scannable Amiibo data that are usually sold in the form of cards or coins, when then I thought, what if I just made my own baby Metroid? The real one has a broken tank with a squishy little Troid on top. I wanted to make mine intact with the baby inside like the title screen of Super Metroid. I modeled the tank based on images of the official Amiibo, trying to stay as accurate as possible. The Amiibo base was from Thingyverse by user Carjo3000, which I modified to suit my needs. Next, I needed a Metroid model, and there are quite a lot to choose from various Metroid games, but luckily Metroid Other M feature clones of baby Metroids, so now we have our model. First, it needs to be scaled to fit the tank, but obviously this can't be printed as is, so I split the model into multiple pieces. First, the jelly shell, as I'm calling it, was made thicker so its walls have some density, then split in half. The teeth teeth are already separate meshes, so they can be left as is for now. And the main body of the Metroid is interesting, as its body is rather low poly and has a lot of flat detail that's just on a texture, as well as these fleshy bits that stick to the inner walls of the jelly shell, which are flat transparent textures on a flat piece of geometry. I'm just gonna ignore them as they will be way too tricky to do, but the main body, we can transfer detail from the texture to the geometry by converting it to a displacement map and baking it. After a little bit of modification here and there, the parts are ready to print. And look, I know people tend to make a deal about it when a 3D printer is involved because, oh, they're so expensive and whatever, but that's not really true, as these days a 3D printer like mine costs less than a Nintendo Switch. Which, you know, considering how many people have Nintendo Switches, I don't think it's a big deal. The main pieces I have printed out in grey PLA so they can be painted later. The jelly shell, however, which needs to be transparent, is printed in clear PLA so you can see the nucleus of the Metroid inside. Although, thing is about 3D printing is that you're gonna get layer lines, and it will not be as clear. You can try and get around this by messing with your slicer settings. I use Cura. Try messing with the print speed, the layer height, and the temperature settings. I went through some trial and error leading to very different results, and now I have a whole stack of these, but eventually I got results that were good enough. But to make it better, I sanded down the outside and inside until completely smooth. But now it was slightly cloudy, so I tried polishing it. Your results should vary depending on how clean the print is, but it's still not perfect, just a little bit cloudy, but you can still see the nucleus inside. Alternatively, you could use a resin printer, but I do not have experience with those. Around this time, I'd finally got my hands on Metroid Dread and its Amiibo pack. It was only a week and a bit late in the mail after everyone else was spoiling the game online. Anyway, here's how all the pieces look assembled. You may want to sand them down to get rid of the layer lines before you print them, but just ignore this glass piece. This is printed in the same clear filament as the jelly shell, but I'm clearly not going to use it and I will have to find some alternative. And so I did, in the form of this clear plastic tubing of 19mm thick, I think, which was conveniently the exact size of the piece I modeled and printed. And even though it's slightly thicker, the Metroid will be just small enough to be wedged in place without the need for glue. Now for the painting, and yeah, I made big mistakes with the Sonic Amiibo, but in the years since 2015, I've built Iron Man suits. I've made tons of handcrafted and 3D printed props, so I know what I'm doing. Except for when I don't. The main body of the nucleus I've given a dark, fleshy red and will add some thin pink highlights. The top and bottom of the tank I sprayed with silver and then mixed some black paint with water to dirty it up, so it matched with the official Amiibo. The inner part of the base I sprayed silver and gave a coat of clear gloss so it matches that of the official Metroid series Amiibo. But I guess I'm gonna have to pass on adding the Screw Attack logo. If you wish to do so, be my guest. The outer base was sprayed with a darker blue, and the Metroid teeth I left as is because I printed them in white. Some Metroid games show that the Metroid's jelly shells are translucent greenish. I wanted to try mixing green paint with water and putting some on the spare prints, but unlike the black paint, it didn't go so well. This is why we test things first. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter. The official Amiibo don't got no color. Blah, blah, blah. And now, assembling everything, held together with tape, it looks pretty much perfect. Now all we need to do is glue the parts together. Now, this part is gonna be optional, but I need to bring up Amiibo tags again. These tags are as thin as stickers and can be found inside all Amiibo bases, and as I mentioned earlier, some people sell them online inside custom coins and cards, so you could buy one and place its tag in here. But I'm going to warn you to be cautious if you plan on doing so, as you will find a lot of reproduced Amiibo tags that are copies of real Amiibo's data, and I honestly don't know what the deal is legally, but I suggest you do your research and buy at your own risk. I guess it's a bit of a grey area. But anyway, that's your custom baby Amiibo. I really like how this turned out. It looks so good and it fits in well with the other Metroid Amiibo, but maybe let's keep it away from Ridley. Oh yeah, and if you want to recreate the title screen of Super Metroid, Mizuno's Love, I think I'm pronouncing that right, probably not, on Thingyverse has created this awesome looking diorama piece you can place it in. But anyway, this was the return of Amiibo Workshop, and I hoped you liked the video. And if you want to make your own baby Metroid Amiibo, I have the 3D files on Thingiverse, which there's a link to in the description below. And hopefully I'll get Proto Man off the ground soon enough. Here's a solid prototype.
Proto-Man? Ah well, the final version will be in multiple pieces, better for painting. But until then, stay tuned, and stay awesome!